are live, and people are watching me talk about how we're not live yet, but we are 6 minutes over. So I imagine that we are live by now. So welcome everyone to Clackamas United Church of Christ. I am Pastor Adam, and you have joined us on this very special presentation called Mindfulness, Meditation, Science plus God. Is that, do we say plus God or and God? I love that.
Either way, plus and whatever.
Okay. Rayah did the artwork for it and had plus God, and I was like, that looks awesome, but I don't know how to say that. And we didn't talk about it. So plus God, there you go. Nobody cares. They just want to hear all this stuff. So who cares about the title? Friends, I am here with my two dear friends from Clackamas United Church of Christ. It's Amira Stanley, and Amira is a mindfulness and gut health educator, and she is fantastic with the mindfulness and the gut health. And Amira, hi.
Hi, nice to see you guys. You guys are my favorite.
Right.
My favorite.
That's fantastic. Awesome. Amira, how can people get in contact with you after the show?
You can find me on Facebook, Amira Stanley. Message me and I can chat with you there.
Awesome, sweet. And we have Rayah Dickerson. Hi, Rayah. How's it going?
Doing good. How are you, Adam?
I'm fantastic. And Rayah is an expert. I know, rolled your eyes. I was trying.
Don't roll your eyes.
So hard not to say expert. Rayah, I say, is an expert. She would not say that. Rayah would say that she has done a ton of study on trauma, mental illness, and she has a wonderful podcast called Depths of Echoes, where she talks about trauma, mental illness, science, and spirituality, and all of that amazing stuff. And you can find that at Depths of Echoes on the website or on Facebook. And I was talking with Amira and Rayah earlier, about 2 weeks ago, and we were talking about this whole idea of mindfulness and meditation. And Rayah said that we really need to talk about Christianity and mindfulness and meditation, because there are a lot of Christians who say that mindfulness and meditation is not a Christian thing. And if you start going down that road, then you're opening the door to Satan. And I said, WTF are you talking about? Because I have never heard this before, and it just sounds really weird to me. So Rayah, I thought that we might start with you talking about your experience growing up and mindfulness and meditation and what you were taught about it when you were growing up.
Yeah, for sure. So, and I don't want my parents to sound like total like cult leaders or anything, because they weren't really the ones who were like explicitly pushing these ideas at all. It was more the random different churches that we went to. So spent some time in some Pentecostal churches like Assemblies of God and Baptist and all these different churches. And there were some different things that I kind of like negative feelings I had towards meditation. And I hadn't really thought about why. And then I started looking back and kind of realizing the things that were taught as I was younger about meditation and mindfulness, and maybe that being tied to why I had kind of weird or ambivalent feelings about it. But just things like, if you clear your mind, then you're going to make space for the enemy, and Satan's going to sneak in and he's going to deceive you. And you have to be on guard at every single minute because your mind is going to be overtaken, and you just never know when it's going to happen. And so you can't ever empty your mind or have less things in your mind. And if you do, you're just opening the door for like demons and stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really hard.
That's deep.
Right? That's a lot of stuff to carry.
That's traumatic.
So, but as I was doing some research on this, I found a lot of the same stuff that you're not supposed to, for Christians, aren't supposed to empty our minds because it allows Satan to come in or whatever. And so what do you do? Why is this a problem? Because in Eastern meditation, the whole point is to empty our minds.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the idea in Eastern meditation? It seems to me like in Eastern meditation, when you have something coming into your mind that distracts you from emptying it, you acknowledge it and you let it pass by. Is this right?
Mm-hmm.
There's no such thing as emptying your mind. So that's the one thing that is not really true.
See,
Um,
this is why I'm so grateful that you are here, because all of the stuff that I am reading from Christians about what Eastern mindfulness is about, my BS meter is going off. I'm like, I don't think you really understand what's happening here. So, Amira, I'm so glad that you're here too.
Yeah, I even hear people that meditate sometimes say just empty your mind, and I'm like, no, don't say that. You're telling them wrong. It's not possible to empty your mind. Your thoughts are always there. But mindfulness, definition wise, is just paying attention on purpose to what you're doing non-judgmentally. And meditation is just a tool that helps you. Meditation is basically retraining of attention, because our minds are always going. So when you use something like meditation as a tool to help refocus your attention to be mindful and present in the moment, it helps you not have all the chatter. But it's not about quieting the mind. It's about just noticing the thought, noticing what's happening, and bring it back to whatever focal point whatever your meditative state is for you. But it's not about removing the thought. It's just about retraining it to come back down and focus on the one thing, so that you can then train your thoughts to be focused and not all over the place. That's a little bit of a
Thank you for that.
yeah.
We do have some people who are making comments in the comment section, and we will bring those in if you have comments or questions. Thank you for being here. And Amira, I'm so glad that you said this, because that is exactly what Christian meditation is about. And so the East and Christian meditations are not in conflict with each other. They're
right.
getting us to the same point.
Yes.
You may have like the Buddha may have had a different, well, I was going to say the Buddha may have had a different endpoint, but I think they all have the same endpoint. Right?
Yeah, I feel kind of the same too. But even Zen Buddhists don't necessarily agree with mindfulness. Like it's weird, the dynamic of everyone. Everyone is like, even there's some psychologists that don't agree with the whole mindfulness piece, and vice versa. But more and more, I feel like therapists are referencing out mindfulness for their people. They don't know anything about it. I've heard a lot more therapists saying, "Hey, I think you should try mindfulness as well."
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's this Christian meditative practice, which is this mantra. Like in Christianity, it's called mantras, and it's comes from the Eastern Christianity, and it's just this repetition of a phrase that's Jesus Christ, Son of God, have mercy on me. And it's constant, like, and when you have something that distracts you, right, then you try to acknowledge it and you let it go, and you go back to
your mantra.
Yes.
Yeah, that's exactly. Yeah, it's the same thing.
That's it. Yes. Well, when we started, I was worried that because we were talking about meditation and mindfulness, and Rayah kept talking about breathing and how important it is just to have a breathing practice. And I was all worried in my head because Rayah, you were saying that Christianity has done a whole lot of bad things when it comes to like trying to breathe. And I was like, I have to argue that Christians can breathe? Like, this is, what are we doing in Christianity where we have to say mindfulness is okay and breathing is okay? I mean, you look at scriptures and God breathes the divine spirit into humans, and that's what animates them. And so your breath, whenever you breathe, you are breathing, you're doing a divine act. God is the one who breathes spirit and life into you. And from the beginning of your life to the end of your life, breathing and paying attention to your breath is a God-like act. You are participating in the divine when you are simply breathing.
Yeah. And isn't it funny how with the breath we do it just naturally, but a lot of us forget to breathe, especially in the moment you're just going and going and just stop. Just
Yeah.
stop. Just breathe. It's like such a beautiful thing.
Absolutely. Rayah, Justin says, my ADHD just kicked in. You have the same last name and is very amazing, a German singer. Oh, I think that's to Marcus. So that's awesome.
Nice.
So Rayah, we were going to bring in some science in this. And, this is one of the other big issues with science and religion. And are they like Eastern religions and Christianity? Are there something that coincides within them that can bring them together? And we've been talking about how meditation is just that. Now let's move to science and religion. And are science and religion opposed to each other? This is again, I'm like, why are we even wanting to talk about this? But there are Christians who say that we should trust religion more than we should trust science. And I'm like, why is this even a rivalry between science and religion? Like, science tells us the truth about the material world, and religion tries to tell us something true about something beyond ourselves, something beyond the material world. And whatever is truth from my perspective, I thank God for it because it helps us live better in this world. So if you find truth in Eastern religions, thank God. Thank God. If you find truth in science, thank God.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'll get off my high horse and let you tell us about science and this topic.
Yeah, no problem. I could talk about this forever. So definitely feel free to stop me or jump in. It's totally fine. I think one of the things that we have to talk about too and address is whether or not we're going to talk about evolution versus creationism. And I used to be a creationist.
Yes, Justin just says, I've heard the earth is 6,000 years old so many times.
Yeah, I feel you, Justin. Me too. And why that if you even think about evolution being true, that will put you on this slippery slope that will corrupt you, and you will end up being an atheist and probably a devil worshiper too, probably. So don't even think about it. But so definitely have an evolutionary perspective now and background. So when I talk about all this stuff, for me, I see, the world's working together, and maybe it does. I hope that there is a divine influence that is, working as a creative force there. But we have science and a lot of things that point to evolution and the change that has been happening over a while. And there's some really interesting stuff that comes up there. And I think that the ancient wisdoms that have been there, so sure, Christianity started from Judaism, and Judaism's been around for a long time. And, a lot of the Eastern religions, same thing. And then if you go over into like the Americas, I don't know the dates on indigenous peoples in the Americas and their religions, but I think we see these threads of wisdom and things that our different cultures have helped us latch onto, and breathing has been one of them. And it's really interesting because it's always like the exhale that is talked about, like Yahweh, the name of God, is it's said with the exhale. And when we talk, when we communicate, all of that stuff is with the exhale. And that's the portion of what we'll talk about in a second that promotes safety. And so that's just a cool thing that, like, when you speak slowly and control that exhale, you can promote a sense of safety in your biology. And all of that stuff kind of goes back to how we evolved and our threat response system, things like that. Our conscious mind is kind of the baby. And so it's not really good at taking control. It's really our bodies and our unconscious, kind of that brainstem that really has control over our bodies. And that has a threat response system that is kind of constantly scanning all the time. Like, okay, how are we doing? Everything good? Do we have any signs of danger? Nope. Okay. So, and one of the ways that that's kind of regulated is through our breathing. Um, when we breathe in, it activates our sympathetic nervous system, which is kind of like the gas pedal. And when we breathe out, it activates the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the brakes. And that ratio of inhale to exhale actually helps control and trigger our whole nervous system. And our nervous system is in charge of shutting down which systems. And so if our sympathetic nervous system is activated and we feel that there's a threat coming at us, then all of our resources are devoted to that. And so we have more blood and energy for our muscles, and we shut down digestion, and we shut down reproduction, and we shut down parts of our brains so that we don't get distracted by, oh my gosh, that butterfly is so pretty, but also there's a bear behind me. So we need it, but also when we have a threat that we need to think about, kind of can work against us. So the parasympathetic side that breaks, when we have that activated, we get to rest and digest. That's when we feel safe, and that's when we can calm ourselves down. That's when our brain comes all the way back online so we can think through things and communicate and talk to each other. So it's really important to pay attention to breathing and what's going on there. And so it's really interesting to see how we've used breathing intuitively. So, I mean, and religion's been using it, right? Like singing and even prayers or any of those types of things. We've been using it. We just didn't want to call it meditation or mindfulness because it's too close to that and it's a slippery slope, you know?
Yeah.
But
Anne Delane, sorry if I mispronounce your word, she's says, I believe evolution and in God. Woo woo. I believe he made evolution to adapt to the world he made. Science and God to me go hand in hand. I personally don't understand why they are separated. Neither do I. Let's not separate them. Let's keep them together because they have important things to tell us. So I think that's important, and you're right on the right track there, Anne Delane. So Rayah, as you were talking, it reminded me of this great story about a guy named Ezekiel, and there are all of these like dry bones that are out and they're dead and they've been dead for a while, and God comes to Ezekiel and says, hey, do you think I can make these bones live again? And basically like Ezekiel's whole culture has died. Like this isn't just about the dry bones, right? And so what does God do to make those bones come back alive? God takes a deep breath and breathes into the bones and makes them come back to life. And this is just all within, as we're talking about science and religion and taking a breath and calming down so that we can focus on what is, I don't know, most important to us in the moment. Seems to me like what this is about. So Amira, could you talk a little bit more about this?
Yeah. One of the things about the breath too, in the middle of a heightened situation, is if you can find some breath exercises that work for you. There's so many out there. In the moment, it really does help de-escalate so that you could move on to the next thing. But just for me personally, mindfulness played a role in my life. It's been about 3 years since I had my first type of coach who helped me with my mindset. And for me, it's like I have a mind that works with me. That's like the best way that I know how to describe it. I have a mind that doesn't go on tangents. And before it was like someone looks at you funny. Oh, it must be this, it must be that. Or somebody flipped you off in traffic. Oh, I must be this, I must be that. Or somebody did this. Oh, I must be this, it must be that. And it's like constantly all day long. I was very self-abusive and didn't realize how bad that was. And so for me, mindfulness has played a role in my life so strongly that I want to help other people understand that you can have a mind that is like that is your road dog, that is your friend. That it doesn't have to be, it sounds very cheesy, but it's just a beautiful thing to, and also instead, if you think about your mindset and the things that you say to yourself all day, if you replace all those things that you say to yourself with kind words to yourself and gratitude for the things around you, that's what mindfulness and meditation has done for me in my life. And I would love to read something to you. This is from Full Catastrophe Living. It's like a paragraph or something. I took little bits and pieces, but just bear with me. The body has no monopoly on suffering. Emotional pain, the pain in our hearts and minds, is far more widespread and just as likely to be debilitating as physical pain. This pain can take many forms. There is the suffering of self-condemnation, such as when we blame ourselves for something that we did not do, or for something we did do, or we feel unworthy or stupid, lack of confidence of ourselves. If we caused other people to hurt, we might also experience the pain of guilt, a combination of self-blame and remorse. There is pain and anxiety and worry and fear and terror. There is pain and loss and grief, humiliation and embarrassment, despair and hopelessness. We may carry one kind of emotional pain and another deep within our hearts so often in our lives, like a heavy and sometimes secret burden, at times unknown even to ourselves. Just as with physical pain, you can be mindful of emotional pain and you can use its energy to grow and heal. The key is to be willing to inquire into your suffering, to observe it, to open up to it consciously in the present and work with it just as you would a symptom, with physical pain or with the thought that surfaces repeatedly. It is difficult to convey the importance of being able to shift your perspective to an acceptance of the presence as it is when emotional pain surfaces. Mindfulness while you are experiencing pain is critical to working with your emotions. Feelings have to be acknowledged, at least to ourselves. They have to be encountered and felt all of their force. There is no other way through the other side of them. If we ignore them or repress them or suppress them, they fester and yield no resolution, no peace. And if we agitate them and dramatize them and preoccupy ourselves with their turmoil without any awareness of what we are doing, they also linger on and cause us more to be stuck. And I'm sorry that was so long, but that in a nutshell for me is why I continue to study, why I want to help other people, because our minds could really make our lives horrible or beautiful. And in my world, no matter what's happening in my world, even if I have moments of stress and sadness, I get through it so much easier with mindfulness on my side.
Amira, I'm getting some echo. Are you getting echo from me?
Oh,
a little bit.
No.
I'm better now. Okay. Amira, I am so glad that you read that, because right before we went on air, I was doing some research, as I said earlier, about Christians who are saying mindfulness is evil and you shouldn't do it. And one of them said the whole point of Eastern mindfulness meditation is to avoid suffering, is to throw it off to the side. And what you just read, and he was like, and what Christian mindfulness meditation so better is that you don't avoid suffering, you go right into it. And that's what you just said.
True.
They're doing this like Christian mindfulness meditation, Eastern mindfulness meditation isn't about avoiding suffering. It's about entering into it and moving through to the other side with breathing, with meditation, with prayer, with all of that stuff. Right?
Yeah. Yep.
So,
can I just say something?
Please.
Oh my goodness. Christians are probably one of the biggest avoiders and downplayers of suffering ever. And so to accuse another culture that's taken an actual modality that there's actual biology and wisdom there that they were tapping into without even having names for it, and then say that they're saying, whitewashing or downplaying suffering and minimizing it is it's so brainwashy.
Yeah.
Like, it's not
Yeah.
good.
We've got a couple of comments. Jeff says controlled intentional breathing is a key element in singing, and I often experience singing as a meditative practice. So Rayah, I think you mentioned this earlier about singing and taking a breath. And Justin says, I think this was when you were talking, Amira, regret, and that's a big one. Regret. Andelaine says, that reminds me of a phrase, let go and let God. I'm just going to say this really quick, Andelaine. A big part of the sermon, I think, for this Sunday here on the page is going to be about forgiveness. And the word in Greek that's in the New Testament for forgiveness means let go. So forgiveness is often something that we think, oh, I just have to forgive somebody. This thing is so hard. Just let it go. Just let it go. Just let it go. Justin, I want to get this in for you guys to think about and for me to think about as well, because this is a big one that Justin brings up. He says, but if I had paid attention 12 years ago to two people's lives, would be better, a lot better. How do I get past that? And I think Justin, you are connecting this with your previous comment about regret. So there are things that we have all done in the past that we regret, and ways that we have hurt people and ways that others have hurt us. And it's a struggle. How do you move past that?
Yeah. And one of the things that I like about mindfulness is that it's constantly teaching you no judging. No judging. No, you observe it. You're observing whatever's happening without judging it. It's okay. Whatever feeling you're feeling, we're being with it. We're observing it. We're not judging. No judging.
Yeah. I know that with regret, it can be really hard. I know I've made some really bad mistakes in my life. My brother just recently had something happen, even my husband, and just made a mistake and just felt so stupid. And like, how do I come back from this? Like, how do I fix this error? Or how is there redemption after this choice was made? And, it's hard, and it takes a community that's willing to see your value beyond your mistakes. But also, if you're willing to go through that and say, you know what, I know it's embarrassing, I know I feel awkward or whatever, but also the people around you get to see how to fix a mistake too. Like, so for my brother and my husband, I was like, hey, I know you feel stupid and you feel full of shame, but here's the thing, you can teach us and your kids how to handle it when they make mistakes, because they will for sure mess up. So teach them how to make it right. It's the perfect opportunity now. And I don't know what you do about 12 years ago. I wish, there's so many things I wish I could go back and change. All I can do now is just say, well, now I know how that ended up, and I am going to do the best I can either to not make that choice again, or to, guide those around me away from the dangers of whatever it was that hurt other people. And
yeah, Erica makes this great comment. When Jesus said to forgive 70 times, 7 times, he was talking to us too. Forgiveness is hard, and it's hard to do. Like, to forgive yourself is one of the hardest things to do. And Justin, I would just say that you are not defined by whatever happened 12 years ago. None of us are defined by our past. And I would say that just the fact that you regret whatever happened is a very good sign, because not everybody regrets things that they've done in their past.
Amen.
A lot of people will justify it. A lot of people will tell stories in their heads where actually they're the victims. I don't know if you've seen people do that lately, but that's happening a lot, where people try to flip it around so that they're the victim of all of this. So Justin, I would say that the very fact that you are feeling some kind of remorse about this is a healthy sign for you. I would also we've been talking about a lot about the mind and mindfulness, and there's this great passage that from Paul, I can't remember where exactly it is, might be Ephesians, where Paul says, put on the mind of Christ. So may the mind of Christ also be in your mind. And why does that matter in this moment? It matters because the mind of Christ always comes to you in love and forgiveness. And so for me to be able to forgive myself for things that I've done can be really difficult to do. But for Christ to come into my life and for the mind of Christ to somehow be around me or in me, saying to you, Justin, you are loved, you are forgiven. I think that is probably the mantra that many of us need to hear the most. And when you start hearing other voices, that's when you just kind of let them go, right? Because God only comes to you in the spirit of love and peace and forgiveness.
Yeah. And it's the same with self-talk. Speak, if you're having judgment about yourself, speak to yourself as if you were talking to a friend, and you would tell a friend, to speak kind to themselves.
Yeah. Any final thoughts that you have, my friends?
I have a bunch of stuff that I pulled, like some clips and different episodes that are relevant and helpful that I will probably put in a link. And we'll also be doing some cool stuff. Me and Amira will be doing more workshops and different things. Amira does a lot of that stuff already. And it's amazing. And she's my coach. And
I love this. My coach.
which I got her at my therapist's recommendation because he was like, hey, have you thought about mindfulness for all this anxiety that you're experiencing?
And this is the first I'm hearing your backstory with how you were like, no mindfulness. I'm like, oh my, I didn't know it was that deep.
I mean, and it's been years since I was kind of
No, it's
that deep,
no judgment at all.
Yeah, no, I mean it's just been a while since I've been there, but it's like I know there's so many people who still struggle with that, and it causes trauma because it imprints this distrust and just this fear, this perpetual fear state in your mind that anything could just get you at any time. And mindfulness has been so helpful for me to just calm down and, oh, actually, I'm okay. And yes, that could happen. That is a possibility, and I can prepare for that. But also, it's not happening now. And that thing that I feel regret and shame about, yep. But it's then, and it's not now. And actually, so one of my favorite trauma researchers, he's not a trauma researcher. He's a somatic therapy pioneer. So he's a therapist, but he works in somatic stuff, which is the body. But he said that ultimately trauma is a disorder of not being able to be in the here and now. You're stuck in the past usually. And so that's why mindfulness can be so helpful for people because it brings you here instead of everywhere else.
Yeah, I do a lot of body work as well. Like when something does arise, and mind you, I just want to put out there, if there is a lot of trauma, I will always recommend that if you haven't dealt with any of that trauma, that you see a professional first, because you do sit with things that happen. But it's a great way to, if you've, like I had a situation that happened 2 weeks ago that I was on a Zoom call and something very traumatic happened and I wanted to react physically and cry, but I had to maintain for 20 minutes. And so I can feel in my body, my belly got warm, my chest started to get hot. Like I can feel in my body now when something's about to arise, because typically it happens in our body first. And if you're paying attention to it, you could kind of check yourself and kind of walk yourself through it if you're paying attention. And usually we're not paying attention, and then we just blow up and we don't really realize where it came from. But if we're being mindful, our body tells us first usually.
Yep. And if you want to have a Christian excuse for it, it'll keep you from sinning because you'll stop and think before you do it. So there you go. There's your Christian excuse for it.
I like it. Yes, nicely done. Well, friends, thank you very much. Erica has a ritual, and we didn't talk. We talked much about ritual, but Christian ritual is And
Mhm.
rituals are very important in all of this. And often in our culture, we are throwing rituals to the side, and there's still a place for rituals for
Mhm.
us. And Erica offers this one. Take a piece of paper, write down your regret, then take it outside and burn it and watch the smoke float away.
I've
And
done that.
yeah,
Mm.
That's a good one.
Very
props for that
nice.
one, Erica.
For
Nicely
sure.
done, my friend. Good stuff.
Hmm.
So, thank you, friends, for being here and for having this great conversation. And
Hmm.
Awesome.
thank you,
Yeah.
everybody, for your comments and for watching. And stay tuned, because on Sunday morning at 10:30 Pacific, Amira and I will be back at it again, leading worship. My favorite part of the week. It's going to be fantastic. It always
Yes.
is, because Amira's there, and Amira's
Mhm.
fantastic.
Oh, geez. I
Yeah.
feel very blessed to be a part of this church family. So blessed.
Well,
I feel blessed. Yes. Thank you.
Yeah.
it's
Amen.
it's great to have you as a part of it, Amira. So, friends, hope you have a great night. Until next time, grace and peace be with you.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Hi, everyone. This is Adam Erickson, reminding you that no matter who you are or where you are on life's journey, you are welcome at Clackamas United Church of Christ. We are located at 15303 Southeast Webster Road in Milwaukee, Oregon. We are so glad that you found this podcast. All of our podcasts will always be free, but we rely on the financial support of our members and our friends. If this podcast meant something to you, you can help us out in two ways. You can share this podcast with someone you think might be interested. You can also help us financially by donating to the wonderful missions we have here at Clackamas United Church of Christ. To do so, you can go to our Facebook page, our website, or our YouTube channel, and click on the Donate Here button. Our worship services start at 10:30 on Sundays, except for during the summer months when we start at 10 o'clock. If you would like more information on our church, you can visit our website at c-ucc.org. You can also reach out to me through email at adam@c-ucc.org. Until next time, grace and peace be with you.